Welcome to day 6 of positioning ourselves for our best year yet and unlocking the keys to our success. And today we're going to be discussing mastering time management, mastering the day to day. And we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's how we spend it that makes the difference. So if we're going to accomplish everything that is in store for us this year and have our best year yet, that progress starts with being able to master what we do on a daily basis to push us towards creating the progress that we need to create in order to achieve and accomplish our goals. So let's get into the framework of mastering time management. And the very first thing that we'll share is intentionality when it comes to our schedule, our time. So things are going to happen in life. Things are going to come up unexpectedly, but we have to have a framework or a schedule that maps out how we move on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in order to make the best use of our time. So how do we create room and space to fit it all in? We've got so much we want to accomplish this year, and we also still have our current responsibilities that we have to deal with. So how do we make room for it? The answer is time management. How do we get to a point where at the end of our day, we feel productive? We don't feel like, man, I missed the mark. Man, I didn't get this accomplished. Man, I'm just surviving. How do we get to a point where at the end of our day, we feel accomplished, like we've made progress towards the things that we want to accomplish and achieve? How do we get to a point where we feel like at the end of the day, we feel successful? We feel like I won the day today. And the answer is time management, mastering the day today. So let's discuss how we're going to start getting the most out of our days each day. And the first thing we have to do is to remember that you can't save time. You can only spend it differently. As I mentioned, we only have the same 24 hours in a day, but how each of us use it looks differently. And so we have to begin to reallocate how we spend our time. And to do that, we first have to take inventory or do an audit of how we're presently spending our time. Our actions truly tell us what we value. So when we look at our calendar, our schedule, and what occupies the majority of our time, that's what we truly value. And in order for us to have some breakthrough this year, we got to maybe make some changes to how we spend our time. So if we don't have enough time, but we spend hours a day watching Netflix, on TikTok, on IG, not for business purposes, but just scrolling. Maybe we got to look at how much time we're spending and reallocate that time towards the things that matter most to us, the things that help us to create the progress in our lives that we're seeking for ourselves this year. The second thing that we want to do in order to master our time management is to commit to waking up 20 minutes earlier this year over the next 28 days. And during that time, what you want to do is take the time to pray, read His Word, and to meditate. So now that you have an extra 20 minutes of time, start by reading His Word, praying, and meditating. And if you're struggling with the concept of waking up 20 minutes earlier, we have to ask ourselves, is 20 minutes of sleep more valuable than spending time with God? And is it more valuable than creating progress towards the goals that we're setting forth to achieve? The third thing we want to do when it comes to mastering time management and mastering our days is to get 4 notebooks or 4 journals. And so the first journal is going to be a spiritual journey or a personal journey or a personal diary. And in this notebook, you're going to write out scriptures. You're going to write out the things that are on your heart. You're going to write out conversations that you're having with God, the things that you're hoping for, the things that you're praying for, the deliverance that you need, the healing that you need. This is where those things will ultimately exist. And also, this is where you're going to write out your testimonies. This is where you're going to write out when God answers that prayer, and when God creates breakthrough in your life, you're going to go back and you're going to write it down so that you can go back and look at it and see how he made a way. For this notebook, I recommend that it's on paper. You actually take time to write these things down on paper. Electronics is nice, but it's something about writing things down. And for this notebook, I highly recommend taking the time out to physically write in this journal. The second journal or notebook is going to be for our goals, our dreams, our visions, our ideas, and our creative strategy. So this is where you're going to write out your goals. What are your goals? You're going to write them in this notebook. When it comes to writing your goals on a daily basis, you're going to write your goals here. Anytime as well, you get an idea, you want to talk about strategy, you want to develop strategy, you're going to write it in this notebook. For this journal or this notebook, I also recommend writing it down on paper. And you can also do mindstorming in this notebook as well. The third notebook is going to be your day-to-day list and items. And this one I recommend to be digital. So utilizing your phone, whatever online apps that you may have in terms of project management. So you have Asana, you have Monday.com. Do it where it's easily accessible, and anytime that something comes up, you want to begin to write it down or add it to this list from a digital standpoint. You can also write it down if you choose to write it down, but digital, I think, for this works best. Now, what you're going to do with this notebook is anytime that you have a task or an item to complete, what you want to do is when you write it down, you want to do 2 things. One, you want to give a tentative timeline or tentative date. So if it is, I need to write a thank you card to my loved one, I want to do it by Friday. And the next step is you want to categorize each task or each item that you write down on this list. So you want to categorize it by either an A, which means high value, high priority things. So if you don't do this, there's great consequence, or if you don't do this, then it impedes your progress. B are going to be medium or mid type of items. C is going to be should do items, so your lowest priority items. D are going to be things that you need to delegate, and E are going to be things that you want to start working towards eliminating because they're no longer essential to moving you closer towards your goals or the things that you need to be concentrating and focusing on. So again, what you're going to do is in this notebook, every time you write down a to-do item or to-do task, you're going to put a tentative timeline to it, and then you're going to categorize it as either A, B, C, D, or E. And the last thing you want to also do is when you are assigning tasks, don't assign more than 3 on the same day. So you can write down 10 in a day, but when it comes to your timelines, don't assign more than 3 items or tasks to be completed on the same day. The fourth notebook or journal is going to be what's called your learning or your continuing education journal or notebook. And so this is going to be a notebook where you're going to write down things that you learn. So when you go to different events, so in this year, we're going to go to different events, trainings, conferences, seminars, workshops. We're going to position ourselves to ultimately learn more. And we'll get into that later. But when you do, you want to make sure, again, that you are writing things down. History makers are note takers. And when you're writing it down, also be sure to include the date and a simple description of the event that you're attending. So if you go and you attend a conference in April in Tallahassee, Florida, you're going to simply write out, whatever the name of the event is. I attended in whatever month and date in Tallahassee. And then you write your notes, that you were able to receive from that training, from that conference, whatever it may be. So those are your 4 notebooks. And this notebook as well, this can be digital or it can be paper. So whatever you are most comfortable with, it can be digital or paper. So the next step, or the 4th step in mastering time management and mastering our day-to-day, is to get in the habit of reviewing your calendar or your schedule on a daily basis. So in order to do that, you have to first start creating a calendar and a schedule on a daily basis, being intentional about mapping things out. And so when we start to map things out, we also have to make sure that we've mapped out or incorporated our routines that move us closer to our goals. So again, if one of my goals is to lose 15 pounds by April 1st, I have to incorporate a routine of 3 times a week, 5 times a week. I'm going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. so that I can hit this goal. So in your calendar, in your schedule, 3 days a week, 5 days a week, you should already have the fact that from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m., I'm at the gym. So you want to review your calendar and your schedule on a daily basis. In reviewing it, you want to make sure that you're accounting for, again, your routines, things, and also your necessities. So in your routines, making sure that you've already mapped out things like gym time, date night, reading time, wellness days, and also making sure that you're reviewing for your necessities. So necessities are things that you have to do for that given day, such as I need to pick up my child from school today. Necessities, you're also just accounting for the fact that you may have meetings that you have to attend at work, or you may have to go to this work-related event today. So once you've done that, you're reviewing your calendar each day, you're looking at your necessities, and you're looking at your routines that are already a part of your calendar and schedule. If you haven't done it, then go ahead and make sure that you do it. And the next step is, on a daily basis, you want to identify your 3 most important tasks that you want to complete for that day and write it down. And when I say your 3 most important tasks, you're going to first go to your to-do notebook. Because again, we've already begun to write things down, and we've categorized them by A, B, C, D, E. And we've given them a tentative date. So each day, what you're going to do is you're going to identify what are the 3 most meaningful things or the most impactful things that I need to do today that help me to create progress. When doing so, don't focus so much on the timelines. Focus on what's most important for that day And that's where you start. The timelines that we wrote were soft timelines. So it's okay if you don't hit every timeline. What's most important is working on the things that are most important for that day. So it's only 3. Do not do more than 3. Don't start off with more than 3. So limit it to 3 things in a day that are going to, at the end of the day, when you do these 3 things and you complete them, they bring you that satisfaction, that sense of accomplishment. I won today. Today I made progress on my goals and I'm getting closer to where it is that I desire to be. And so sometimes, or naturally, what we do when it comes to setting, I guess, tasks for the day, sometimes we set many tasks because we feel like, okay, well, hey, I was able to do these 10 things today, right? And I can check them off, but it doesn't mean that they're the most impactful things. And usually, or naturally, we always start with what's easiest. And so sometimes when it comes to the most meaningful things, it may also be the most tedious things that we need to do that we keep pushing off, but we really need to do them because they create the greatest return on our time. So think about this. If my goal is to start a business or to start a new organization, a new outreach program in the next 30 days, and my 3 tasks are, number 1, take out the trash today. Number 2 is to scan and upload documents. 3, it is to shred papers. Versus, first thing I'm going to do, or first task, I'm going to create new job postings. The second thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to review the current job postings and I'm going to schedule some interviews. And the third thing is I'm going to find a vendor today so that I can then create or place my first order. So in those 2 scenarios, which one do you feel is most productive or effective? Because everything that we do, or all tasks, are not created equal. Some things that we do have 5 to 10 times the value than other things that we do, even though they may take the same amount of time as other things that are not as valuable. So again, it's how we spend our time that makes all the difference in the world. Because if I'm working on the 3 tasks in the first scenario versus the second scenario, my productivity is going to be completely different at the end of that day. And the 5th thing in mastering time management is, once you complete your tasks and your items for the day, mark them off as completed. Doing so, it helps to create a sense of accomplishment for that day. And it also helps to build momentum. And it then builds a habit of winning each and every day. And once that begins to happen, you'll be amazed that when you look at 30 days, 60 days later, the progress that you've made this year and how you truly are positioning yourself for the best year yet because of the action and the things that you're doing intentionally this year and becoming a master of how you spend your time. And if you get to the point where you have free time after completing your 3 tasks for the day, that's when you can then also identify your lower priority task and then get those completed as well. And then once you do so, you want to make sure that you are marking those off as well. So, what are our action items for today? Number 1 is to get 4 notebooks or journals in the 4 areas that we mentioned. So, the spiritual notebook, a notebook for your goals, your dreams, your visions, your strategy, and your ideas, a notebook for your day-to-day. So in your to-do notebook at the start of each day, you're writing out today's date, and you're going to write out the 3 most impactful things that you're going to complete today. And then, of course, the 4th notebook that we talked about is going to be your learning, your education, and your notebook where it's going to help to sharpen you, the wisdom that you gain from the events that you ultimately are attending. The second thing is to commit to waking up 20 minutes earlier each day, every day. The third thing is to do an audit or a review of how you're currently spending and allocating your time. We only got 24 hours in the day. And if you want to be most productive, we got to make some adjustments with how we're presently spending some of our time. 4th is to review your calendar and your schedule on a daily basis. Every day, review your calendar and review your schedule. 5, rewrite your goals daily. Every day in your goals notebook, rewrite your goals every single day for the next 28 days so that it becomes a habit. 6, on a daily basis in your to-do notebook, identify your 3 most important tasks that you are going to accomplish for that day and accomplish them. Remember, these are the 3 most important things that need to be done, regardless of the soft timelines that we may have written down. And then the last step, do it. We got to go do it. So let's go execute. If we want to tap into ensuring that this year we go get everything that's in store for us and ensuring that it's our best year yet, we got to go do it. We got to go execute. If you've enjoyed this video, all I ask is 2 things. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, feel free to share it with anyone else. So let's get it.